To our online participants, we're sort of hovering around 60, 65 people online. If I have my way, those are people who are actually still right now at the operations, busy running our mines, developing their careers, and using the online platform to check in and see what conversations take place in London. That's why post-COVID, when we didn't drop the platform. We decided to use that platform to get deeper into the industry with our conversations, and it's worked very well for us. So welcome back to everybody. We're going into parts of the program. For those of you who know me and have seen, there's nothing I enjoy more than getting to know the CEOs, the current generation of people who run the companies, get the story behind them, who they are, and then sometimes put them on the spot for how they handle the shit that happens. Now, Marna's got the easy life. No shit has happened in her life yet. To the contrary, I think it is when we unpack the challenges that our leaders face that we get a sense for this industry is a fantastic place for anybody who's interested in leading people and creating value. So Marna Cloete is, she doesn't need introduction. She's extremely well known. Her title kept on changing, and she's been the boss lady for so long that I don't know how you go from boss to ultimate boss to more boss to the boss. And the boss just under Robert. So that's her title. She's the boss just under Robert and has been for some time. So if we all settled, then perhaps I can come and have a nice chat. So Marna, I mean, I'm shocked at the number of accountants in the mining industry leading companies. I don't know, you're one of them.
I am.
So tell us, what went wrong in your career?
It's maybe what's wrong in the industry.
Tell us about those life choices that brought you to where you are. Give us a bit of a Marna Cloete background, please.
Yeah, so I really didn't have any idea what mining really was. Studied to become a chartered accountant. I think when we went through schooling in South Africa, it was towards the end of apartheid and this new dawn, and you knew you had to go and do something to be able to earn a living, and it was, you can become a doctor, a chartered accountant, actuary if you can do maths. And I chose to become a chartered accountant and then did a master's degree in tax, applied at a PwC, and then put my third choice as mining. And any girl who puts mining as a choice will get mining, because no other girl. It's not the sexiest industry for a girl to be in. And then just really started my career working on the different mines and got to know the people. And as you know, it's really a small circle of people. And
who did you start with in mining?
So I first joined Group 5. I followed Paul Flaherty back then. He was a partner in the mining division, and took a bunch of us with him to Group 5. And then I sort of just coincidentally started with Ivanhoe Mines. So I'm an Ivanhoe Mines lifer. I started there about 20 years ago, and started as a group financial controller, worked my way, that's the title changes, worked my way through to CFO alongside Lars Erik Johansson, and then ultimately president and CEO, but always been working very closely with Robert, which is also a specific skill.
Yeah, I'm sure there is coaching, but there are quite a few CEOs who have got challenging relationships, I'm sure. So right now your company is at a very phenomenal point of growth with more projects coming. And when something technical goes wrong, people say, yeah, but you're an accountant. So how do you, as somebody with a different background, handle the current challenges that you face? And perhaps you can give us a brief update. Where are you with your operational challenges, and how are you handling it as a leader?
Yeah. So I think the first thing to note is it's very easy to be a leader when things are going well. It's easy to sit with your investors and your shareholders and share the story. And what we've been able to do to date was just share this phenomenal story of discovery, of building a project in what's considered a difficult jurisdiction, executing it on time, on budget,
Everything
and
went
then
right.
just hitting every milestone. You know, we just grew and grew and grew, and we have seasoned partners alongside us in an equal joint venture with Sejin. And then in May, my technical education, I would say, took a giant leap. We started experiencing quite a significant seismic event at Kamoa-Kakula. We had to withdraw all our people from underground, get all our equipment out. And it's really in times of crisis that you see, you know, the human spirit coming through, and what people do when they need to safeguard the asset, but also safeguard the people. So I think the first significant milestone in terms of this technical challenge was that we didn't have any fatalities or any injuries. We immediately made sure we got the best technical experts on board. We recruited a guy from Australia called David Beck. He was well known to Sejin as well. And he's an expert in geotechnical analysis. And, you know, it's a real-life situation. You don't know what you're facing. You don't know if it's an external stressor. You don't know if it's an internal factor. You don't know if it's something that you contributed to. Obviously, we've issued a press release subsequently. The event occurred in a section where we had a mature level of extraction. And it's fair to say that in a shallow, thick ore body, which there hasn't been many discoveries like Kamoa-Kakula in the past couple of years, assumptions around how backfill would react and that backfill could replace pillar strength were probably miscalculated. And I think the new reality for us at Kamoa-Kakula is that we are going to have to mine based more on a geological understanding in terms of what's ahead of us, leaving much larger pillars, and then also mining out to the peripheral and then retreat mining back these pillars. So we're going to have to go and basically re-engineer our life of mine plan.
On the western side of the whole mine?
It's basically for the whole mine, because this really changes our whole understanding of the geology of the region. So we will also go and do the same at Kansoka and the same at Kamoa. It's multiple mines, so it's really a massive mining district.
The complexes.
The complex will change, and we're currently working through that. The important thing is to always have a plan. It's not how you fall, it's how you stand up. And we immediately put together a short-term, medium-term, long-term plan. We had to take a decision to let the eastern side of the mine flood.
I was going to ask, this idea of adding water to a flood, why did you add water?
So we had scaling on the sidewalls, and our electricity supply to the pumps were connected on the sidewalls. So they basically just kept falling off the sidewalls, and it was considered too unsafe to send crews back in to reconnect the electricity. So we then immediately started installing temporary pumping stations, sort of higher up in the ore body. Luckily, we had sufficient pumping capacity on site. We managed to stabilize the water levels. We're already starting to dewater the mine as we speak, so the guys physically go and push the pumps down. And then this is where it's great to have Chinese partners. Sejin Logistics immediately procured large surface pumps for us, which we will install through our vent shafts. That will happen from September onwards. So just to give you sort of a feel on water, inflow rates were initially estimated to be about 4,000 litres per second. It's currently slightly below that, so that's why we've started with the dewatering, and we've got installed temporary capacity of 5,000 litres per second.
I'm not even converting that, but that is a shitload of water.
That's a lot of water. And then on the...
Shipload, I see.
Shipload, yes. And then on the temporary pumps that we are importing is about 650 litres per second per pump. So it's 2 stations of 1,300 litres per second. So we should have the mine dewatered by the end of the year, the eastern side. We already started mining on the western side based on these new assumptions, the mining assumptions, working with the experts. And we have multiple QPs and engineers sitting in a room putting their heads together about sort of contemplating what the new Kamoa-Kakula would look like. And you can imagine, you know, you're a human being. You go through we all went through the stages of grief because it's our baby. We discovered it. It's been such a phenomenal growth story. And you sort of have to emotionally turn yourself around and say, listen, all's not lost. It's 30% of the Kakula resource that was affected, a reserve that was affected. Of that, 20% is in that eastern zone. The experts reckon we will be able to recover a good portion of that once we get through, but now we're developing access around. We will leave a stability pillar, we will hold through, we will go and see what we can get out of that zone, and then we will apply the new mining method going forward. But luckily, we have stockpiles on surface that we're currently milling. We've moved some of our crews to some of our other mining areas, where there's scope to increase, open up new mining faces. We're developing a new decline at Kansoko to access the other ore body from the other side. But there is a temporary grade impact in terms of what we will mine because Kakula is really our high-grade section.
But as our chair's panel shared, I mean, with mining being a long-term industry, I mean, in 20 years from now, you look back and the ore body will be exploited. I just want to bring this back to the sort of leadership lessons. So I could sit here and say, okay, but at the design, there was under-design. With hindsight, you should have had additional spare capacity, different electricity supply. What are the sort of, how does a company like yours internalize these lessons? I mean, so the share price have already taken care of the news. I mean, the market has dealt with the market impact. But internally, what will be different, do you think, in your company?
Internally, I think there's a lot of lessons for us here. You know, I think it's important when you do go through rapid growth to take pause, take a moment, take stock, and you know, running away with sort of the success factors we had. I think it's important to say, okay, where do we need to mature as an organization? What depth do we need to add to our organization? And these are lessons that you learn. Robert has a saying where he says, you know, success has 1,000 fathers and failure is an orphan. Not that I would call this a failure. I think this is a temporary glitch. It's a lesson for us. It's something that we will learn from. And it's something that we've already started to turn around. You know, and I'm bullish that Kamoa-Kakula, if you look at just what it is in the great scheme of things, it's the 4th largest discovery ever. It's just one of those mining complexes that will stand the test of time. This would be one chapter in a very thick book. But I think it's an important chapter for us also to take stock and to say, let's learn from what went wrong here. Let's do things differently. And we've already started applying the same lessons to Platreef, the same lessons to Kipushi, getting people with fresh eyes to look at what we've done, what our designs are, so that we do not repeat the same mistake again. That's the important thing.
So obviously, in full disclosure, before your involvement, I had the privilege of visiting Kipushi. I will keep those views to myself, but that was a long time ago. But I had the privilege of visiting Platreef, so perhaps we can talk to the other assets in your portfolio. The world doesn't need your platinum. Why the hell do you want to flood the market with your platinum? What is your story?
We always get the same
Let's talk
question.
about Platreef, your plans, and where you're going to get it smelted and so on.
It's a similar story to Kamoa-Kakula. It's just one of those ore bodies that would be a shame not to develop. And I think South Africa do need to see a bit of modernization and sort of a new dawn of mining. We're going to start producing at the end of this year for phase 1, but it's sort of a marginal project initially. It will just wash its face for the first 2 years, and then we will ramp up to phase 2, where we will probably see how the market handles the volumes, before we make an investment decision to move to phase 3 in the future. And phase 2 is about 450,000 ounces, so it is significant. The first phase we've placed with Northern initially, and of the second phase, about 60% with Sibanye. The other 40%, we think there will be capacity in the market for downstream beneficiation. If there's no capacity, then we will have to think of alternative sources offshore, looking at exporting maybe a different version of the product, etc. And we've done a lot of studies in that regard.
Have you approached the government for permission to do that?
We will do that when it's necessary, yes. So that's at least 3 years away.
Yeah. And other people are currently testing and not necessarily getting success.
Yeah.
You may remember at one of our PGM days, I think you and some of the other future platinum producers were on a panel talking about how this will work out, and then I had Craig and the other senior guys on the next panel, and they said, no. So there was a bit of talking past each
it
other.
was also after your day that we actually had good discussions with Sibanye. So I think, there's different reactions in different
For a small fee, I facilitate any.
Thank you, Bernard. You were instrumental in our success. But the thing about Platreef is, at the cost, where you're sitting on the cash cost curve, it is a very compelling project. It is something that, we also, before you go there, we do get the question, are there synergies with some of the existing producers to consolidate? Obviously, there are synergies. They have facilities that we don't yet have in place. So I think those conversations will take place at the appropriate time. But for now, we are going at it. It's a tier 1 asset. It's got very good margins. So, it's going to be an exciting year for Platreef. I'm looking forward to putting it into production. It's my home turf project, so it's sort of...
So you haven't renamed it to rhodium reefs or palladium whatever deeps, or so what is what is the pearl split in the basket?
It's about 70% platinum palladium on a 50-50 basis, and then we've got significant nickel and copper byproducts, and then rhodium and gold.
I'm obviously personally waiting for the day that you say it's actually gold mainly at the current gold price. I'm sure gold.
Yeah.
And then let's go to your other asset, Kipushi. What's the progress?
So we started producing last year, not at sort of design capacity initially, and we had a few tweaks that we needed to do to the plant to get it to its full throughput. So currently we're going through a debottlenecking program. That will be done in the third quarter of this year, and then we will be able to produce sort of 20% in excess of design capacity, so about close to 300,000 tons of zinc in concentrate from next year onwards. So it's sort of ramping up. Cash cost is below $1 per pound of zinc. So it's the only problem with the project is that zinc is obviously not copper. So, if it used to be a very, very high-grade copper mine in its heyday. And there are small pockets of copper, but we're really just mining the big zinc in partnership with Gécamines, Girobar, that was on the screen earlier.
And then tell me, so you must live the challenges many mining executives live, logistics. South Africa's logistics is not straightforward, but perhaps simpler than some of your other jurisdictions. Talk to us about the challenges you face and what can a company like yours do to solve those?
Yeah, so when we initially just started with Kamoa-Kakula logistics, it was probably one of the biggest challenges we faced. We were sort of a victim to our own success. Putting an inordinate amount of trucks on the road, and then you sit with that border congestion at Kasumbalesa because there's only really one commercial border crossing in the DRC. We were pulling our hair out of our heads because we simply couldn't get trucks through quick enough. And then sometimes it's as simple as an engagement with the border officials to understand working hours. And we managed to renegotiate working hours at the border crossings. And, since the early days when logistics was really challenging, we've really broken the back of it. We've got in place large logistics service providers that provide services to us. They contract directly with our off-takers, so we don't really directly manage them, but we are changing that model. That model's a bit different for Kipushi, and for Kamoa going forward, we will take care of some of the logistics. But then there's also the Lobito corridor. So that's been developed by Trafigura in a consortium with Motel Engli. And we've shipped some test volumes on that corridor already. It's up and running. It's going to ramp up over the next couple of years, and we've reserved capacity for between 120 to 240,000 tons of copper on that corridor. And that will come at a saving to us. So we will definitely see a reduction in our logistic charges. And then the other thing to mention around logistics, it will be a miss of me. At Kamoa-Kakula, we did build a smelter. We're about to heat up the smelter now in September. We will produce first anode in October, November. And that will also really reduce our logistic charges with about 50%. So
you've got the power for that?
Yes. So we've got imported power, we get grid power, and then we're currently completing, we've rehabilitated turbine 5 at Inga 2. So that will create another 178 megawatts into the grid, of which we will be able to get 71 megawatts immediately, and we're busy with a grid infrastructure upgrade project as well, where over time we will get up to 150 megawatts of that generation capacity. And then we have generator capacity. We've got an emergency backup supply that we're busy installing at the smelter. So really just on all fronts, dealing with power, dealing with logistics, and getting our smelter up and running.
I can make a South African comment which you will understand. Africa is not for sissies, and mining in Africa is not for sissies. If we go back to the South African project, are you fully permitted? Obviously, you will have a mining license. You've got a water use license. Have you got all your SLP stuff, community? Because you're quite within a community.
Yes.
Apart from the big wall.
Yeah.
You are right within a community. Just talk us through those challenges.
We are fully permitted, but it is a very iterative process in terms of community engagement. I got a question the other day about dealing with communities in the DRC versus dealing with communities in the South African context. And in South Africa, it's a lot more sophisticated in terms of your engagements. People are very well educated around mining, around entitlement to SLPs. You have a lot more activism out of the community. So a lot more time and management need to go into your South African community relations. In the DRC, you deal with a community that's hungry for development and hungry for economical advancement and education. So it's a completely different approach to dealing with a South African community. So as much as it's Africa, it's very different at each of the projects.
Yeah, and I think that's something we don't highlight with every speaker, but Africa is a continent, but it is very, very different jurisdictions. And I think this is but one example. So now that you can sleep again after your technical problems, you can sleep again. Now, what keeps you awake?
I do take a sleeping tablet with
it.
Temporary.
The sleeping tablet that keeps you awake. But so just park the issue which you've shared with us. What else is it that? So if you take your 5-year time horizon, in the next 5 years, what are the key things that you are busy with, should be busy with?
Yeah, so I think for us, we would like to replicate our success that we've had at Kamoa-Kakula in terms of what we're doing on our drilling and our exploration licenses adjacent to Kamoa and the Western Forelands. We've also taken a leap into Kazakhstan, which is quite interesting.
I actually forgot about that. Yes.
Yeah, it's also a sedimentary sort of copper system, something we understand, and we've got a a partner that we've partnered with, a UK-based company that's been spending a lot of time in Kazakhstan, and we have an earn-in with them over time. So I think we would like to see that internal copper growth. It's very difficult in a industry where everybody's hungry to add copper to their portfolio to compete with the majors, you know, and not to overpay for assets. I was sort of listening to Khalida sitting here, and he did make a compelling argument for M&A, mentioning the numbers at which he did it and what it was worth today. But you know, it's easy if you're in these big machines. It's a bit more difficult when you're in a company like ours. So that organic growth, making these discoveries, I think that's what we are good at, and that's what we would like to replicate. And that's why people invest in us, is for that potential upside of making that next discovery. And then, you know, on the shorter term, obviously, I think we were quite severely punished for this technical glitch. If we take, you know, the market cap fall that we've seen over the past couple of weeks versus what we calculate the event what the impact of the event would be, I think it's a very good buying opportunity for each and every one of you out there. Now's the time to get into Ivanhoe Mines' stock. We won't disappoint you. We will under-promise and over-deliver going forward.
But as Venkat said, but it's well known, I mean, one makes investments in your credibility and trust in little drops, and then you withdraw by the bucket. So
Yeah.
perhaps you've had a bucket withdrawal in
Yeah.
terms of the team's ability to deliver, which is unfair. I mean, you can objectively say, but over 15 years we've delivered.
There's been consistent delivery,
Yeah.
and I think, I mean, we had a number of peer visits just in terms of project execution. You know, but under budget, ahead of schedule on most of our major executions. So I think it's just, it's been overall, I think, quite a volatile year across many industries. And, you know, especially with the macro politics playing out, it's been a tough year for everybody. So I think once sort of people start building up their models again and seeing, you know, that you need to look at the underlying value of what's been put together. We will slowly see our stock price turning around, and we will prove to our investors that they can back us.
So we are out of time, but I do want to ask quickly about, so you are partnering with a Chinese company. A lot of conversation is the Chinese as some entity, either the enemy or the buyer of our resources. When they are funders, there's certainly a Western world view of what they bring. You live with Chinese partners, actual equity partners. Just give us a sense, how's that work? You gave us an example of pumps arrive on site much quicker than what it would have arrived if you didn't have. But expand a little bit on the pros and cons. Perhaps you'll go soft on the cons. But
No, I think the Chinese is like saying the Africans or the Europeans. And that's a common mistake I think we all make. So if I just take our partners, Zijin is an operator. So that's like dealing with a fellow mining company. And they do have a different DNA and a different approach to project execution and operating their projects than we would. And then you have to compromise. We have to compromise. We probably would have gone slower. And they probably would have gone faster. And I then think somewhere in the middle, in terms of executing Kamoa, you then land on something where everybody feels that they won. So that I would say there's a principal philosophy difference in execution between a Chinese operator and a Western operator. When it comes to like a CITIC, who's our biggest investor. It's a very sophisticated investor. It's like having a Fidelity or a Capital Group on your register with the same type of questions and the same type of demands to you as an entity. And they want to see growth, they want to see dividends, they want to see Yes, there's an off-take element to it because they also have a trading business. So it's very different depending on who you work with. There are synergies. There's obviously, in terms of procurement and construction capability, you do have access to that. You do have access to bulk buying power, but you also have that constant negotiation between differences of approach, and then you need to land on that middle ground where everybody loses a little and everybody wins a little.
I have a few more questions, but we're out of time, damn it. Paula, it's always your fault. I really appreciate, thank you for coming back.
Thanks, Bernard.
I know it's not an easy time to be out there,
No,
but you are doing what you
we need
have
to
to
show our face.
Exactly, come show your face as you did. Thank you very much.
Thank
Ladies,
you.
gentlemen, Marna Cloete. Thank you.
Thanks, Bernard.